I fouled the wrong guy, and he like picked me up and slammed me into the wall, like holding me up by my shirt. It was like a movie. He was like looking me like dead in the eye and was telling me like, you're gonna disappear, your whole family's gonna disappear. Like you came and around in the wrong hood, kid.
Welcome to the Digital Social Hour. I'm your host, Sean Kelly. I'm here with my co-host, Charlie Cavalier, and our guest today, Connor Barth. How we doing?
Doing pretty good, man.
We just played last night.
Got the W. That's what matters.
I saw your game. You were pretty nice, man.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't actually know that I'm very good at basketball.
Yeah. Well, there's a stigma with dunkers that they're not like.
Yeah, that we can just dunk.
Yeah.
And that is true for some of us, but for a large majority of us, we stemmed out of basketball.
Right.
So dunking became something we liked to do and we could make some money off it. So we just transitioned into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how did you get into dunking? Was it just playing at first and then you just started yamming it?
Oh gosh. I mean, that was part of it. Obviously, I came up and I was watching like Vince Carter and like with the Mavericks, there was Gerald Green when he was with the Mavericks. And I just became obsessed with like that part of basketball. I just thought it was the most impactful part of basketball. So all through high school, I was trying to dunk. I couldn't dunk well, but I could dunk. And then I started, Googling, how to do dunks, how to do tricks. And I ran into Jordan Kilgannon, which shout out. And then just from watching him and talking to a bunch of the other like semi-pro dunkers, that led into me just becoming more and more interested. So, yeah.
And then from there, you just started training and eventually got a 50-inch vertical.
Yeah, I mean, so I basically spent... I was playing like semi-professional basketball at the time, and I had done that for about 3 years and didn't really want to go pro. I didn't want to go to college, like not my thing. And so I decided like, I'm just going to focus on one thing right now and just, everything else done. So I was like, I'm just going to be a pro dunker. I don't care what it takes. I decided that at like 23. I'm 30 now. So I spent a year and a half to 2 years doing nothing but just like studying, training, dunking. I would literally just like wake up, go to my 9 to 5, and then I would just go straight to the gym and I would either jump for like multiple hours.
Wow.
Or I would just lift weights and then go home. And then I just repeat. And I did that every day for that 2-year span. So I gained like 10 inches on my vert in that time.
Jeez.
Yeah, so
that's a lot.
And
yeah.
You mentioned becoming a pro dunker. What does that look like? Is there a circuit? Is there a
gosh.
paycheck that comes from being a pro dunker? How do you monetize that?
Yeah, so up until this point, monetization around dunking has basically been you can get brand deals. So, build your social media, get brand deals. You might get sponsors, get paid like that. But most people make money from it from just appearance fees. So it's like, hey, come to Dubai, do this dunk contest, we'll pay you $2,000 and we'll pay your whole way. The truth is there's almost no pro dunkers that make a full living off of just dunking.
Wow.
There's not that much money in it currently. A lot of that has to stem with like the organization's never been put in to really like get the brand deals and get, everything just organized. So that's actually something I've been working on a lot. Ever since I got into dunking, it upset me that it wasn't an actual sport. And I was like, we have all the qualifications to be a sport. It takes a lot of work to be a pro dunker, and it's obviously very entertaining.
It is. A dunk contest is some years is very entertaining. Some years it's not. But Chase mentioned they only get $100K when they win.
Yeah, and that's an NBA player.
Yeah.
So like, imagine what we get. Like, we don't. So
that's nothing for them.
Yeah.
What would you say the top workouts are that helped you gain 10 inches?
So this is a very common question, and the top workout is always going to be just jump. So like, this is true for almost anything in life, but like if you want to get better at something, you have to do it a lot, right? So jumping is the most specific thing you could do. If you jump a lot and you just do it consistently, 1, you won't get hurt as often, and 2, you will just get better. Eventually it becomes a point where it's like, how much do I get from jumping 3 hours a day? And can I do that every day? No. Like as you get better, you have to start jumping less because you jump so high. But that's when you start adding in things like weight training, all sorts of different modalities like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you say jump, you're literally saying just jump up and down as long as you can?
Yeah, not quite like that, although that would help. But really what I mean is like just go to your gym and have a dunk session, even if you can't dunk. If you can't dunk, you have two choices. You can either just jump at the goal, which is what I did, or lots of places have adjustable hoops now.
Mhm.
So you would want to put the goal down to like right above where you can dunk. Because then you know, like, oh, when I start consistently hitting a dunk on 9 foot 3 inches, you know you got better. Okay, put it to 9.4 and keep going.
That
And then
makes
when you can
sense.
do it consistent there, 9.5, and just keep repeating. So
Nice.
Do you
Yeah.
think it's a good idea for those trying to dunk on a 10-foot hoop to bring the hoop down a little bit to start to get the repetitions of in grabbing the hoop, hanging, all the stuff like that? Is that the best way to start?
yeah, I mean, if you have that option, I think it's definitely the best way to start. And I also think too that doing that and like doing tricks with it, especially if your main goal is be a pro dunker, the biggest challenge is not jumping high. The biggest challenge is having the hand-eye coordination to do all the tricks. Like you could jump really low and do like between the legs behind the back if you just have really good hands.
Right.
Like even right now, like I'm not jumping the highest I've ever jumped. I could go do a behind the back dunk with like in a warm up just because I've repped out the technique so much.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. Behind the back. Jeez.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of squatting and deadlifting?
Huge fan. Massive fan.
'Cause some people say it causes injuries and stuff.
It does. I think I think that the health and fitness industry is pretty opinionated. It's a lot like politics. It becomes very extreme. There are like people that say never do these things. There are the people that say always do these things.
Yeah.
Without getting like too philosophical with it, generally that has to do with what someone found worked for them. So whatever they find works for them, that's going to be the thing they preach to everybody holistically, right? It's a lot more nuanced than that, but squats and deadlifts are really good for you if you work up to them properly. Just like I would never tell someone to just like go jump 3 hours a day every day when they've never jumped. I'd be like, okay, go jump twice a week for 30 minutes, and then next week do 35, and then next week do 40. When you get to an hour, do 30 minutes again, but go 3 times a week. You know, it's all about this progressive adding of the stress over time.
Right.
So if you start with squatting body weight, then you do 10 pounds, 20, and you do that for, you know, over a year, and you just slowly work up to where you're squatting, you know, your body weight on the bar, you'll avoid all those injury issues if you're using proper technique too, which there's so much information online now. You can find everything you need.
That makes sense.
I feel like social media did a lot for the dunking, community, things going viral, things of that nature. What is the most incorrect stereotype you see put out amongst those trying to get hops, trying to get up higher, and trying to do more with their dunking game?
Repeat that question.
So what is it? What incorrect stereotype do you see put out on social media from other dunkers to those trying to learn? Like, what is something that people tell everyone trying to learn that you just think is incorrect? The most widely pushed incorrect stereotype.
Yeah. I think going back to the previous question, the biggest stereotype I see is that everyone has to do it the exact same way. That's not really true. Like, for instance, Sean, like probably if you squatted more, like if you focused more on weightlifting and you just jumped consistently, I already think you're like pretty springy. So like adding in more strength would be something that would probably benefit you more than someone else, right? Like everyone's trying to give everyone this like one template that this is exactly how you do it. I think that's kind of what's wrong and gets spread around a lot. It's like, this is the one thing that will make you better. It's just, it doesn't work that way. There's so many aspects to it. It's not that complicated. I think it gets overcomplicated a lot. But it's like some people are at the phase of, you just need to learn how to jump. Go jump a lot. When they get through that phase, they're at the phase of, okay, you need to get stronger now. When they're through that phase, now it's like, okay, you need to get stronger, but in a very specific way, because you need these different qualities of strength. It's not just be strong. Now it's be strong and fast. Now be strong and slow, and still keep jumping. So it's just that this is the one thing, that's the biggest stereotype there is around.
Yeah. Do you think if you trained a 5-foot person with your training regimen, you could get them to dunk?
Possibly. It depends. So they would jump higher 100%. Like anyone who does something correctly, like they'll jump higher 100%, no doubt. The big thing becomes like, can you dunk? Well, that depends less on your height and more on your reach, like your standing reach. I've actually done a dunk contest in Regal. It was in New Mexico or New Mexico? No, Mexico City. It was it was the first dunk contest I ever did. And there was this guy named Gediminas Zetlinskis, and he was 5'8", and he had a higher standing reach than me at 6'4", right? So I have short arms as a dunker, by the way. My wingspan is like, I think it's 6'1.5".
Oh, wow.
So that's not normal.
Yeah.
So if I knew their standing reach and like they needed, a 40-ish inch vert to dunk, I would say that is achievable for most people. If you give like a good 5 years of training hard, you could get a 40-inch vert and you could dunk as long as your reach was high enough.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
You got hope, Charlie.
I got hope. I was gonna say I'm not 5 feet, but 6 feet on the dot. Maybe I got hope with my bad knee. But now talk about standing reach. Standing reach is a way better indicator of how easy it will be for you to dunk than your height is, right? Because that's
again,
everything.
it's like people just don't actually understand what goes into it. Like your standing reach is the only indicator if you're going to be able to dunk, other than obviously how high do you jump. But hand size has a little bit to do with it, but even that is like negligible compared to standing reach. I actually want people to start just posting their standing reach instead of their height because it's misleading.
Yeah.
Like I'll give it like 1 foot god, Jordan Sutherland.
Yeah.
He has a pretty high standing reach compared to his height. So it's like if Jordan Sutherland and I had a dunk contest, he's at like a 3-inch advantage. Not to say that's the reason he'd win or not win, but that's just like the actual physical fact, right? Like if I was dunking against Zion Williamson, him and I to have like even dunking fairness in terms of like reach, I'd dunk on like a 9.6 rim. If I was dunking on a 9.6 rim, like I would be doing wild things. So
wow. When you go into a dunk contest, do you know that you're going to make the dunks? Like you're very confident?
Yeah. I mean, most dunkers have like, I would call like a repertoire of like, they know they'll make these dunks. A lot of the time, especially when I do contests, I actually don't care about winning that much. I just care about doing something cool. So I'll try to do dunks I've never done before in a contest. Like you were with me at Vegas when I did that behind the back right. Like I did that because I was just like, I need to do this in front of people because no one's ever done it.
People didn't even know what happened.
Yeah.
You did it so
They
fast.
still don't know what happened.
He went behind the back, off the backboard, dunked it.
wow.
Yeah, like caught it with the other hand after it bounced off the backboard and dunked it.
Where was this?
In Vegas.
This was in Vegas at the Ball Dog celebrity game.
Yeah, that's where we met. He
Yeah,
went
yeah.
off that game, man.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a fun game.
It was.
But like, so that dunk, literally no one knew what happened, so it didn't go viral. And then like that was 2.5 years ago or like 2 years ago. And then randomly like a few weeks ago, it went viral. Like because someone finally realized like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, like the crowd didn't even react when he did it.
They were just like, huh? Yeah.
You ever get in any street ball fights when you're hooping, dunking on people?
Gosh. Yeah, so I mentioned this to you yesterday at the gym, but so when I was like 17, I got kicked out of my high school because bad grades, not doing my homework.
You can get kicked out of high school?
Yeah.
For bad grades?
I was in a private school.
Oh, private.
So they were just like, hey, you're not a fit. See you later, kid.
Got it.
And I was like, whatever. So I went to this school that was like not in the best part of town in Fort Worth. Grew up in Fort Worth. So, and right down the street, there was a boys and girls club. And I would like hear that guys would go play basketball there. So I went and played basketball there one day after school. And this was at like 9 p.m. because I had to wait. And they don't start playing until like 9. And they have this whole like program where it's just, you come in, like it's to keep people like out of gangs, off the streets, like not doing hooligan shit, so that they'll actually like just not get in trouble basically, right? So I went in there and I'm like, only white guy. Like I'm 17. When I was 17, I was like not super athletic. I was super skinny. And I went in there, I'm just like, I just want to play. And I was good at basketball. I just couldn't dunk really well.
Okay.
And we're playing. They like finally let me play after like multiple games. I had to convince someone to let me play. And this guy, his nickname is Rambo. He's just like jacked, like probably one of the most jacked guys I've ever played with. And he fouled me when I went up for a shot on one end, and I was like talking to him, because I'm smart like that. And then we went to the other end, and I absolutely just like fouled the out of him, because I was like, I don't like people like disrespecting me in basketball. Like there's no reason for it. So anyway, I fouled the wrong guy, and he like picked me up and slammed me into the wall like holding me up by my shirt. It was like a movie. And he was like looking me like dead in the eye and was telling me like, you know, like you're gonna disappear, your whole family's gonna disappear, like you came and f***ed around in the wrong hood, kid. And I just like looked at him, I was like, okay. Like I didn't know what was going on. Like I'd never been in that situation before. Like I didn't know how to act. But the funny thing was he kind of respected it because I just like didn't care at all. I was so nonchalant. And I ended up playing at that gym, and that's actually kind of where I started trying to do trick dunks and stuff, was like with those guys.
Yeah.
And me and that guy became friends. We actually still talk when I go back to Fort Worth now. Yeah.
That's wild.
So
I would have been myself, bro.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting experience.
it was a blast. I learned a lot from that group, actually, just about life too. Yeah.
You were the only white kid.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So growing up in Fort Worth, obviously, you know, Texas is a football state first and foremost. I'm sure you remember that often. What is it like having a love of a different sport in a place that is so ingratiated into football?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Texas football's a religion.
Yeah,
like it's actually like an obsessive thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was annoying a little bit, especially like when it was basketball. Basketball's still pretty popular. Like actually, so my school played against Julius Randle in state every year.
Wow.
Yeah, we lost like 3 times by 1 point. Yeah, Prestonwood, man.
You played him?
Yeah.
What was it like guarding him?
Scary. I mean, he's like he was as big as he is now then. So he was just like, oh, go past you, dunk on everyone.
Wow.
But so yeah, it was nuts. They're actually, that team had 3 number 1 recruits of their class. It was Mickey Mitchell, Randall, and then it was Zach Peters.
Wow.
He ended up going to Kansas, and then he quit because he got a concussion. He quit basketball for the rest of his life.
Wow.
Yeah, but
And was that a private school?
yeah, private school.
Okay.
Yeah. So they would just like recruit people from across the country.
Yeah.
But so original question, back to it. What was that?
Dealing with loving basketball.
Yeah.
Up in a football state.
Yeah. So football is like actually religion. Like our basketball team would always have less funding. Like most of the football kids some of them would play basketball, but like football and basketball season overlap. So like we'd only have half our team for the first half of the season.
Wow.
It was pretty annoying. But truthfully, like sports are so big there that it ended up not really mattering. Like you could still do everything you wanted to do, but it's just like those slight biases of the schools and stuff. Of like, oh well, football makes us a lot of money, so we're gonna focus on that more.
Did people even go to the basketball games to watch?
Not like the football games. The football games would be like packed out entire stadium. The basketball games would be like, yeah, you have some crowds. Like when it got to state, people would come, but like the normal games and stuff, it'd be like, your parents and stuff are there, but you're not having like a crazy crowd.
Yeah, that's how it was in Jersey. Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
So you own a gym. I want to dive into that. How did you get involved with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, so originally I moved from Texas to Florida to work with Knees Over Toes guy, Ben Patrick. And I worked there for like 2 years, ended up leaving there. We never did like brick and mortar like locations or anything like that. After that, I worked with some other people here and there, mostly online training because that's what we specialized in. Just had tons of thoughts about wanting to do stuff in person with people, like especially personal training, just because there's a lot of people who want to jump higher and I've got the time. So I ended up working with a friend of mine. His name is Ben Gilbert, like 9 months ago. And, you know, gave up my business. And I was basically like, I'm going to give up my business and come and join you so that we can like help each other, you know, use our strengths to grow faster. And we did that for the last 6 months and it's worked out really well. But during all that time, I basically convinced him, I was like, you know, I'm going to help you grow this big. I just need someone to help me manage things. So like, stick with me. We're going to do this, but you're going to have to give half. And I was like, I already gave up my company, so we're gonna have to have an agreement here. So we did that. Like we just went all in together. And then actually last week I was telling you this, we had some other people sign on. Our gym name's about to change. Our gym name was Adrenaline Fitness. It's about to change to probably Evolve Fitness Group. It's interesting that we went to that Lifetime. We want to do something very similar. We want to basically create like high performance athletic facilities like all over the country. And there's a lot of like specific training like structures that we want to implement that don't really get implemented at normal gyms.
Like what?
Well, it's about like the order you do things, like I was talking about before, right? Everyone's at a specific point, and lots of people will just go into gyms and all be treated exactly the same, which doesn't work as effectively. It works, but it's not the best, right? Like, we basically want to try and solve fitness. Like, this is a belief I hold more so than anyone else at my gym, but like, I believe fitness is a solvable equation. I think almost everything in life is like objectively solvable. And so I want to create a gym where we can actually do that. And like, just when it's solved, it's solved. And then someone comes in and you just have them do the test, you put them where they are, and the results are only a matter of time and doing it.
Interesting.
It's not like a subjective thing anymore.
Right. So it's kind of like a leveling system.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, we've described it as like belts in karate. Yeah, it's like, when you are this level, you will have these qualities.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mean that someone who is like at the same level will, like, all of them will have 30-inch verts or something, but it might be like, when you reach this level, you should have had some percentage gain where you were at that level. You know?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of high flyers like John Morant get injured, more often than maybe even ever before. What are some unique things that dunkers can do to protect themselves other than just, landing on 2 feet?
Yeah, so a big one would be, this is a shout out to John Evans, just so I give him credit, but like isometrics. That was something I implemented into my routine. And if you don't know what an isometric is, like when you pick something up, the bringing it up portion would be called a concentric. It's when your muscle gets shorter. When you lower it back down, that's eccentric. It's when your muscle gets longer. And then if you hold it still, that's an isometric. Your muscle is contracting, but it does not get shorter or longer. So you can do those a lot. Those are really, really good for your connective tissue, just because you're putting a lot of force into them. Your connective tissue wants force on it. You just need to do it the right way. So a lot of these like really athletic guys like Zion and Ja and things like that, they get hurt because they're putting such huge forces into their body so frequently that they're just not prepared for it. And I would hazard a bet that like a lot of these guys are doing preparatory things in the weight room, but it's really hard to account for every possibility in a basketball game because it's so random that like the only thing you can really do is like prep the best you can. Again, I think that there is an objective answer to this eventually. I don't have it right now, but I think that there is, like, you could figure out all the movements someone go through. You could test someone and figure out like what their weakness is. And if you know that, you know the injuries that can stem from that, and you would just bring that up. Like, there's always a chance for injury, but you just minimize it as much as possible. Those isometrics are a big part. And then just the basics of like progressive overload and load management are super important. I actually think I heard an interesting take from, it might have been Kendrick Perkins, who said that like, I think he said something about like, he actually thinks part of the problem is that people are doing load management now, because the problem is not always the load you're at. It's these peaks of the load. So like, if you like, when I was dunking 3 hours a day, when I was at like a certain level of jumping, I could do that, and I could just do that forever if I didn't get better. The thing that would hurt me is if like now, right, like I said, I hadn't trained as consistently or dunked as consistently while working on this business. If I go jump a ton, my body can handle small amounts of that large force, but not, consistently. So it's about like keeping it smooth, doing these load management things, and like having players not put the forces on themselves as frequently, I think detrains them a bit, and then ends up leading to more peaks and valleys of like stress on themselves. If they're outside of the gym actually training hard and like practicing hard and stuff, it smooths it out. So like, there's a dual-edged sword there, where it's like, part of it is if you have a really, really high intensity that you do consistently, you might like not have everyone be able to sustain that. But the people who can will stay healthier because it's not doing this.
I think there's a balance.
Exactly. And again, everyone's going to be a little different. But I think that it's an interesting topic for sure.
No, it's very interesting because it becomes a what if conversation. What if Kawhi Leonard hasn't been getting injured all these years? He could have 2-3 more rings.
Like what if Zion could actually play?
Chris Paul.
All
these people.
Like,
Chris Paul, the one that really bothers me because I just want him to stay healthy for one playoffs, stretch. It'd be nice to see.
I think he wants
looking
that.
good without him, but I don't know if they'll beat the.
It's gonna be interesting. Do you have an age that you want to dunk at? Like, do you want to be able to dunk when you're 50, when you're 60? Each of
That's
you
a good
guys.
question.
Yeah, I do actually.
What's the age?
Oh, I want to be able to dunk at 60.
Ooh,
That's actually the age I had picked
That's
before.
fine. Interesting.
what's the world record age? Like oldest dunker?
I think the oldest dunker I've ever seen was Dr. J dunked at like 64, I
Okay.
believe.
That's
He had this whole thing where every year on his birthday he would like dunk and film it. So
That's a good tradition.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think I'll start doing something like that actually.
Yeah.
But the thing I wanted to do different was I want to be able to dunk at 60, but what I really want to be able to do is do a double up at 50. So a double up is when you like jump over someone and take the ball out of their hand and dunk backwards.
Wow.
And this exists because there was a guy in my comments who said something to me that annoyed me. So now I'm like, I think I said like in a caption, "Oh, I'm going to be doing this at 50 because it's so easy right now."
Yeah.
And he's like, "It'll never happen." And I screenshotted it and I was like, "Bet." So
That's sick.
yeah.
I mean, Kador's dunking barefoot at 47.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
Kador's also shorter than me and like
Yeah.
so I definitely think it's possible.
Oh yeah.
It's just not stopping. You just have to stay consistent.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, man. Any closing comments, things you're trying to promote?
Yeah, man. If you want to jump higher, go to adrenalinefitnessgym.com. And if it's not that by the time this comes out, then just go to my Instagram page and go to the link in my bio.
Awesome.
But yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Digital Social Hour. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next week.